The story opens in the late 19th century in the Qing dynasty with a high-stakes meeting at the imperial palace. The Empress Dowager, concerned about internal stability, instructs Fei Yang, a highly skilled and multilingual captain of the imperial guards, to travel to America. His mission is to hunt down and eliminate two leaders of the revived China society, Sun Yat-sen and Zheng Shiliang, who are accused of assembling firearms for a larger rebellion. Fei Yang, a man of refined taste and deadly skills, accepts the mission to ensure the lasting prosperity of the Great Qing. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, a young Chinese man named Qin Fu, who presents himself as the great detective Fu Olms, is investigating a murder. He quickly solves the case of a wealthy man's death by identifying the poison chloral hydrate, which was cleverly hidden in ice cubes, pointing to the victim's servant as the killer. Qin Fu, who is a self-proclaimed prodigy fluent in English and a master of deduction, is then asked to take on a more complex case, the murder of two individuals, a white woman named Alice and a Native American man named Six Hands, found in an alley behind a theater. The murders are sensationalized in the American press, with a letter from the killer claiming to be Jack the Ripper. The victim's high-profile connections: Alice's father is a Republican senator named Grant, and Six Hands is a Navajo chief, threatened to incite racial tensions against the Chinese community. The local Chinese community, especially the powerful Hip Sing Tong gang, is deeply concerned. The community fears that Grant will use the murders to push for a bill to ban all Chinatowns in California. The boss of the Hip Sing Tong, Bai Xianling, believes his son Bai Zhenbang is being framed for the murders. Bai Xianling, a man who built his empire from nothing, seeks Qin Fu's help to clear his son's name. He details the suspicious circumstances, including Zhenbang's sudden departure from a performance and his subsequent arrest. To help Qin Fu, Bai Xianling even accepts him as a godson and gives him a piece of valuable land to help with his son's bail. At the same time, Fei Yang arrives in San Francisco. He and his retinue are met at the docks by a young man named Fu Jin, who they believe is their contact Qin Fu. Fu Jin, however, is a swindler who tricks them out of their money and leaves them stranded. Separately, Qin Fu is approached by a young man named Gui, the son of the murdered Native American man Six Hands. Gui, believing Qin Fu is the man Pearl told him would lead him to his father's killer, insists on following him. Qin Fu, annoyed but intrigued, tries to escape Gui, but the boy's persistence and unusual abilities, which he attributes to his Kachina heritage, lead him to a surprising discovery. As the separate plots unfold, Qin Fu and Gui's pursuit of the killer leads them to a confrontation with a mysterious man. Simultaneously, Fei Yang and his men, having been scammed, are now on the hunt for the man who cheated them. The paths of Fei Yang and Qin Fu are about to converge in the tumultuous world of late 19th century San Francisco. The stage is set for a collision of two very different men, one a Qing official on a secret mission and the other a self-styled detective, as they navigate a city rife with racial prejudice, political intrigue, and a killer on the loose. The movie continues with the central characters further entangling their lives and missions. Qin Fu, the self-proclaimed detective, and Gui, the Native American boy seeking revenge for his father's murder, form an unlikely partnership. Gui, whose name means ghost, is a fierce warrior with unique senses and skills. He vows to assist Qin Fu in solving the murder case in exchange for help in avenging his father Six Hands, who was also a victim of the Jack the Ripper killings. The two seal their partnership with Qin Fu promising to help Gui find justice, and Gui promising to be Qin Fu's partner and protector. Their partnership is immediately tested when they return to the Hip Sing Tong headquarters, where they are confronted by Fei Yang, the Imperial Guard captain from the Qing dynasty. Fei Yang, having been swindled upon his arrival in San Francisco, came to the Hip Sing Tong for help and found the man he was tasked to arrest, Zheng Shiliang. It is revealed that Bai Zhenbang, the son of the Hip Sing Tong boss and the main suspect in the murders, is a close friend of Zheng Shiliang. Fei Yang demands to arrest Zheng, but Bai Xianling, the Hip Sing Tong boss, refuses to allow it. A tense standoff ensues, with Bai Xianling asserting his authority in America, a place where the Empress Dowager's decrees hold no weight. Fei Yang is forced to back down for the moment. With the immediate threat resolved, Qin Fu and Gui focus on the murder case. They confront Bai Zhenbang and Zheng Shiliang, who have been hiding the truth. Zhenbang finally admits that on the night of the murders he and Zheng were not at the theater for a show but to steal guns from an Irish gang for the revolution. This confession explains his silence at the police station but does not clear him of suspicion for the murder, especially since his alibi is tied to a criminal act. Qin Fu and Gui decide to investigate the crime scene themselves using Qin Fu's unique methods, which he likens to Chinese medicine's diagnostic principles: observe, listen, ask, and feel. At the alley where Six Hands was killed, Gui uses his heightened senses to observe the scene, noting that only his father's blood was present and that the murder weapon was a stick. Qin Fu deduces that the victim Alice was not killed there but was brought in a carriage. They also examine Alice's body at the morgue. Gui's hawk eyes spot invisible scratches on her body, suggesting she fought back, while Qin Fu's pig nose smells wood shavings on her, leading them to the conclusion that she was beaten with a stick. Their investigation next leads them to the house of Senator Grant, Alice's father, under the pretense of feeling the pulse, which Qin Fu reinterprets as stealing to justify breaking and entering. There they discover a photograph of Alice that suggests a deeper connection to someone in the Chinese community. They also learn that Alice and Zhenbang studied together in England, which makes Qin Fu wonder if they had a relationship. Their final lead takes them back to the Chinese Grand Theater, where they find Bai Zhenbang and Zheng Shiliang with Qing Ling Fu, a renowned Chinese magician. A tense confrontation with Fei Yang and his men takes place. Qin Fu and Gui cleverly use their wits and fighting skills to protect the two fugitives from Fei Yanggu's group, demonstrating their combat prowess. As the dust settles, Qin Fu asks a probing question: was Zhenbang trying to elope with Alice on the morning he was arrested? He deduces that Zhenbang was at the port not to escape but to flee with his lover, suggesting that the motive for the murders might be far more complex than a simple criminal act. The film's final act sees the investigation into the Jack the Ripper murders reach its dramatic conclusion, while the personal journeys of the characters intertwine and reveal a larger conspiracy. The plot summary resumes with Qin Fu and Gui's investigation. Zhenbang, a true romantic, explains that he kept his relationship with Alice a secret to protect her honor even after her death. He reveals that her maid Amanda delivered a letter to him which led him to believe they were eloping. This new lead sends Qin Fu and Gui on a quest to find Amanda. Simultaneously, the political and personal stakes rise. Fei Yanggu, still intent on capturing Zhang Xiliang, tries to form an unlikely alliance with the Irish Union leader Thomas. He offers to reveal the location of the guns the Chinese rebels stole in exchange for help capturing Zhang. Fei Yanggu's mission, however, takes a sudden turn when he receives news that the Eight-Nation Alliance has invaded Peking and the Empress Dowager has gone missing. This shatters his rigid loyalty to the Qing court and leaves him in a moment of existential crisis. Back in San Francisco, Qin Fu and Gui return to the scene of the third murder, where a Chinese doctor was killed. They realize that her wounds were different from Alice's, confirming there are two killers. They also discover a medicinal pot with herbs for stabilizing a pregnancy, leading them to believe Alice was pregnant. This discovery points to a new motive for her murder. Meanwhile, Bai Xianling, fearing for his son's life, books him a ferry ticket to escape. Zhenbang, however, refuses to leave, believing he has a greater purpose to fulfill. He convinces his father's men to let him go and vows to find justice for his name before he leaves. The climax unfolds in a public square as Qin Fu and Gui present their case to a large crowd, including Senator Grant, the media, and a desperate Bai Xianling. They first reveal that the Jack the Ripper killings were done by two different people. The first, who killed Alice and Six Hands, was an expert. The second, who killed the Chinese doctor, was not. They then used the gunshot wound on Zhenbang's body to prove that he was shot at point-blank range and died the night before, not the morning he was found. The body was placed in an ice cellar and later moved. Qin Fu then exposes the entire conspiracy. Senator Grant, a former military doctor, killed his daughter Alice after discovering she was pregnant with a Chinese man's child. To cover up the murder and use the tragedy for political gain, he faked the Jack the Ripper crime, blaming it on the Chinese. Grant then silenced the witnesses, Six Hands, who saw him move Alice's body, and the Chinese doctor who knew about her pregnancy. After the public revelation, Qin Fu confronts Bai Xianling. He explains that he knows the Hip Sing Tong boss orchestrated the entire plot. He correctly deduces that Grant, a Republican who wanted to ban Chinese labor, was a threat to Bai's business. To remove him, Bai used his connections with Qing Lingfu, a master illusionist, and staged the misdirection at the docks. This scheme not only discredited Grant but also helped Bai acquire a valuable piece of land and form a partnership with the Irish Union leader Thomas, ensuring his business's future. Bai Xianling, a man who values money and power over all else, confesses his actions and gives Qin Fu a residency paper revealing that he knows Qin Fu's true identity as a descendant of a famous imperial physician who fled a massacre years ago. The film concludes with the final goodbyes. Bai Zhenbang and Zhang Xiliang decide to return to China to join the revolution. They acknowledge the selfless acts of the Chinese people who are willing to give their lives for a better future, a cause that they now realize is more important than personal gain. Qin Fu and Gui decide to stay in America and form a detective agency, with Qin Fu naming Gui's family name Tang to honor the historical name of Chinatowns. They are now known as Detective Chinatown, a team dedicated to fighting for justice. As they part ways, the film reflects on the meaning of revolution, freedom, and the sacrifices made by the Chinese people, leaving the audience with the powerful message that their journey for a better future is the greatest magic trick of all. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.